Chapter 91. When the Roses Bloom. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master, Chap. A group of people burst into the banquet hall, swiftly carrying the unconscious Rong Qin on a stretcher to receive urgent medical treatment outside. Mu Qin followed with a dark expression, while Su Fengsa hastily announced the suspension of the match, busy maintaining order at the scene. Meanwhile, the other central figure, Song Ke, was left alone, ignored, and isolated in the room. In the preceding matches, the participants won rather effortlessly. Most people understood that the so-called selection process was merely a formality. Mu Qin managed to get Rong Qin on stage, even under the clear awareness of his young master status. It was anticipated that they wouldn't go too far against him. As it turned out, Song Ke indeed did not go too far. She didn't even make a move. Rong Qin managed to knock himself out, which was simply laughable. Could she be blamed? After all, she hadn't expected this awakener to be so incompetent. After Mu Qin led the group out, Ruan Wenjun calmly stood up and, looking towards Miao Lun, said, "May I have a word?" Miao Lun smiled and nodded agreeably. Leading a few mercenaries, including Go Denwei, they exited the bamboo house and entered the opposite room. Soon after, Song Ke noticed the beautiful sister signaling to her. Amidst the noisy chatter in her earpiece and the chaotic background sounds, Xu Xing was cheering for her victory. Zhuang Qingyan and Lu Xiaoyu were arguing back and forth. Song Ke wanted to interject but feared being noticed for her unusual behavior, so she simply shut down all communication devices. Following the beautiful sister to a spot below the bamboo curtain, she inquired, "Are you one of Sly Fox's people?" Song Ke nervously replied, thinking to herself that she'd have to apologize to Irene for using her name in this manner. "You're lying." The beautiful sister's expression suddenly turned cold. "I'm from the Western Street. How come I've never seen you?" "Ah, busted." Song Ke sighed. She didn't possess Zhuang Qingyan's skill. She was terrible at lying. "In fact, I'm not affiliated with anyone. Sly Fox is a friend of mine." "A friend? What's Sly Fox's real name?" the beautiful sister interrupted. "Irene," Song Ke honestly answered. "I had no choice but to say that earlier." The beautiful sister continued to scrutinize her with suspicion. Song Ke raised her terminal. "I can contact her now." The beautiful sister gently pressed Song Ke's wrist, frowning slightly. "No need, it's not convenient here." "Do you really know Irene?" "Yes, I do." "Has she returned to Mu City?" "Yeah, a few days ago, we met." "After she goes back, can you still get in touch with her?" "I can." "Give me your address." "What?" "I want to ask for a favor. I want Irene to come to your place. I want to see her tomorrow." "Oh." Song Ke quickly provided her apartment address, realizing belatedly that the beautiful sister, though dressed in an expensive dress, had no accessories or even a terminal. The beautiful sister noted down Song Ke's address and then gazed at her face, her eyes gradually growing distant. Unconsciously, she reached out her hand. Song Ke held her breath, standing still foolishly, too afraid to make a move. Just as the fingertips were about to touch her cheek, the beautiful sister abruptly snapped back to reality and quickly withdrew her hand. "Here's a piece of advice, no matter the reason, do not join the guard unit. It's a conspiracy." Her tone was mild, but a careful listener could detect the goodwill behind her words. "What do you mean?" Song Ke was taken aback. The beautiful sister glanced back, seeing that Miao Lun and Ruan Wenjun had already walked away, leaving no time. "The guard unit is just a facade. Their true target is Shay. Remember to arrange for Irene to meet me." The two passed each other by. Under the bamboo curtain, only Song Ke remained, now even more puzzled. Not join the guard unit? Besides this route, she couldn't think of another way to get close to the general. Song Ke activated her receiver, and Zhuang Qingyan's voice immediately came through. "Is everything okay over there?" "Yeah." Song Ke briefly recounted what had just happened. Chapter 91. When the Roses Bloom. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master, Chap. A group of people burst into the banquet hall, swiftly carrying the unconscious Rong Qin on a stretcher to receive urgent medical treatment outside. Mu Qin followed with a dark expression, while Su Fengsa hastily announced the suspension of the match, busy maintaining order at the scene. Meanwhile, the other central figure, Song Ke, was left alone, ignored, and isolated in the room. In the preceding matches, the participants won rather effortlessly. Most people understood that the so-called selection process was merely a formality. Mu Qin managed to get Rong Qin on stage, even under the clear awareness of his young master status. It was anticipated that they wouldn't go too far against him. As it turned out, Song Ke indeed did not go too far. She didn't even make a move. Rong Qin managed to knock himself out, which was simply laughable. Could she be blamed? After all, she hadn't expected this awakener to be so incompetent. After Mu Qin led the group out, Ruan Wenjun calmly stood up and, looking towards Miao Lun, said, "May I have a word?" Miao Lun smiled and nodded agreeably. Leading a few mercenaries, including Go Denwei, they exited the bamboo house and entered the opposite room. Soon after, Song Ke noticed the beautiful sister signaling to her. Amidst the noisy chatter in her earpiece and the chaotic background sounds, Xu Xing was cheering for her victory. Zhuang Qingyan and Lu Xiaoyu were arguing back and forth. Song Ke wanted to interject but feared being noticed for her unusual behavior, so she simply shut down all communication devices. Following the beautiful sister to a spot below the bamboo curtain, she inquired, "Are you one of Sly Fox's people?" Song Ke nervously replied, thinking to herself that she'd have to apologize to Irene for using her name in this manner. "You're lying." The beautiful sister's expression suddenly turned cold. "I'm from the Western Street. How come I've never seen you?" "Ah, busted." Song Ke sighed. She didn't possess Zhuang Qingyan's skill. She was terrible at lying. "In fact, I'm not affiliated with anyone. Sly Fox is a friend of mine." "A friend? What's Sly Fox's real name?" the beautiful sister interrupted. "Irene," Song Ke honestly answered. "I had no choice but to say that earlier." The beautiful sister continued to scrutinize her with suspicion. Song Ke raised her terminal. "I can contact her now." The beautiful sister gently pressed Song Ke's wrist, frowning slightly. "No need, it's not convenient here." "Do you really know Irene?" "Yes, I do." "Has she returned to Mu City?" "Yeah, a few days ago, we met." "After she goes back, can you still get in touch with her?" "I can." "Give me your address." "What?" "I want to ask for a favor. I want Irene to come to your place. I want to see her tomorrow." "Oh." Song Ke quickly provided her apartment address, realizing belatedly that the beautiful sister, though dressed in an expensive dress, had no accessories or even a terminal. The beautiful sister noted down Song Ke's address and then gazed at her face, her eyes gradually growing distant. Unconsciously, she reached out her hand. Song Ke held her breath, standing still foolishly, too afraid to make a move. Just as the fingertips were about to touch her cheek, the beautiful sister abruptly snapped back to reality and quickly withdrew her hand. "Here's a piece of advice, no matter the reason, do not join the guard unit. It's a conspiracy." Her tone was mild, but a careful listener could detect the goodwill behind her words. "What do you mean?" Song Ke was taken aback. The beautiful sister glanced back, seeing that Miao Lun and Ruan Wenjun had already walked away, leaving no time. "The guard unit is just a facade. Their true target is Shay. Remember to arrange for Irene to meet me." The two passed each other by. Under the bamboo curtain, only Song Ke remained, now even more puzzled. Not join the guard unit? Besides this route, she couldn't think of another way to get close to the general. Song Ke activated her receiver, and Zhuang Qingyan's voice immediately came through. "Is everything okay over there?" "Yeah." Song Ke briefly recounted what had just happened. "The general is thinking about this." Miao Lun continued to press the issue. "Colluding with the refugees means death," Ruan Wenjun pronounced coldly. Bang! The sound of a gunshot rang out, and Ta Shang's head instantly burst. Song Ke looked at Ta Shang's body, the one who took the blame for her, and sighed silently. After this incident, Ruan Wenjun lost interest in watching the matches and left the banquet hall with his men. Following Ta Shan's demise, there were only a few people left. After a few more one-on-one fights, the recruitment of the guard unit was hastily concluded. Song Kei left the mansion with a heavy heart, preparing to exchange intelligence with her companions. As she was about to leave, she caught sight of Tun Qing standing behind Mu Qin, making a gun gesture towards her head. Song Kei remained silent for 2 seconds, then slowly opened her mouth, silently mouthing the word, "fool." She didn't understand why Tun Qin had such intense animosity towards her. It couldn't be because she always defeated him in competitions, as he'd never beaten Zhang Si either. So logically, Tun Qin should hate Zhang Si equally, right? Muttering to herself, Song Kei hurried back to her apartment. As she opened the door, she found Zhuang Qingyan and the others waiting for her. Taking the water from Zhuang Qingyan, she drank it in one go while listening to her companions discuss. "There's a problem with the hero banquet," Fang Jishu, rarely speaking up, said. Too hasty. We were misled by the threshold of the level 3 crystal. The truth is now out in the open, Zhuang Qingyan remarked. Song Kei remembered Rong Qin's frenzy to gather crystals during the battle and Mu Qin's seizure of crystals, presumably for him. Originally, it was believed that Mu Qin, under the guise of recruiting for the guard unit, would send higher-level awakeners to the general to fill the vacancies in the guards. However, judging from today's selection, the abilities of the participants varied greatly, making it seem somewhat strange to appoint them as the general's personal guards. "So, should I still go tomorrow?" Song Kei inquired. Zhuang Qingyan paused for a moment, regarding that individual of Miao Lun's, who wants to meet Irene. What was Irene's response? Lin Yuyu brought up the terminal page. They indeed know each other, and Irene has agreed to come tomorrow. Let's decide after the meeting. She surely knows something, so let's see if we can extract more information from her, Zhuang Qingyan suggested. Additionally, let's dig deeper into the information about the Shay refugees and Chongqi. I have a feeling this could be a crucial breakthrough. The next morning, Irene knocked on the apartment door. After Lin Yuyu opened the door, Irene's first words were, "Where is she?" "She hasn't arrived yet. Please come in and wait," Lin Yuyu said softly. Alertly, Irene walked to the window, propping up her cannon to surveil the street outside, preventing potential surveillance. Song Kei confessed about lending her name to Irene yesterday, to which Irene shook her head. "It's fine." "Irene, about the beautiful sister, is she really affiliated with you?" Song Kei asked. "She can't entirely be considered mine," Irene replied calmly. "She only arrived in Western Street half a year ago. I'd say we have a sort of cooperative relationship." Song Kei was about to ask further, but Irene suddenly gestured to her in a solemn manner. "Here they come." A few minutes later, a series of knocks echoed through the door. The beautiful sister stood quietly in the hallway, draped in a shawl. Irene aimed her cannon towards the figures wandering outside the apartment. "You brought a tale." "They are Miao Lun's private guards. They are just monitoring my movements. They won't follow inside." Once the 4 individuals were seated, Irene adeptly handed over paper and pen. The beautiful sister swiftly sketched, creating lifelike portraits one after another. "I've only located these few. They agreed to wait for further messages from you. The others couldn't be found." Irene observed the sketches. "They're from Western Street. Thank you for the intel." The beautiful sister simply nodded. "For today, that's all. Do you still intend to stay by Miao Lun's side?" Irene suddenly inquired. The beautiful sister's movements ceased. Song Kei and Lin Yuyu exchanged a glance. Lin Yuyu subtly shook her head, and both held their breath. "I've been thinking for 3 months. I still don't understand. What do you really want to do?" Irene locked eyes with the person in front of her. "You're not someone who seeks vanity. Miao Lun is capricious. Each day with him adds more risk. Why deliberately get close to him?" The beautiful sister fell silent. At that moment, the guest room's door opened coincidentally, and Zhuang Qingyan and Fang Jishu stepped out together. Therapy can only suppress muscle atrophy. I've temporarily stabilized your broken bones with my ability. When we returned to Tongwen, Fang Jishu was giving detailed instructions when he inadvertently looked up toward the living room and was struck motionless as if by lightning. Yao? His voice trembled as he called out. Chapter 92. When the Roses Bloom. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Why do doctors save people? Yao? Fang Jishu's voice trembled as he called out. The reaction from the beautiful sister was also big. She accidentally knocked over the paper and pen, hitting her shin against the chair, and creating a scrape noise. Her entire face turned pale, staring at Fang Jishu in disbelief. How could you be here? I mean, New City, you're not. Fang Jishu took 2 steps forward, the language system completely disrupted. You clearly said you wanted to leave Tongwen, start over somewhere else. No. Fang Jishu glanced at Irene and then back at the beautiful sister, suddenly having a dreadful suspicion. His face displayed a shattered sadness and an impending enormous pain. Yao, what are you doing? At this moment in time, the only possible person who could appear here was Miao Lun's mistress. Coincidentally, Song Ke had encountered the beautiful sister twice. Both times, due to various circumstances, the communication device was inadvertently switched off. None of the V-587 members had heard her voice. Moreover, at the banquet hall, due to the servants arranging screens, everyone's attention was on Song Ke, naturally overlooking her, as she wasn't that important. Judging from Fang Jishu's current reaction, it was clear that they had known each other for a while. Lu Xiaoyu, Su Cha, and Xu Xing heard the commotion and successively came out of their rooms. However, the atmosphere was tense, and no one spoke at this moment. Song Ke slightly turned her head and noticed that the entire body of the beautiful sister was trembling as if a rose in a violent storm, on the verge of collapsing. Fang Jishu slowly reached out his hand but hesitated to touch her. Yao, please stop this, okay? Let me take care of the rest. Trust me once more, even if it means death, I will do it. Perhaps stung by a specific word, the beautiful sister suddenly raised her head, her eyes bloodshot. What will you do? What can you accomplish? The beautiful sister murmured softly, her voice increasingly poignant. It's been 7 months. Do you still remember Tian Tian? Do you remember what she looked like? You've forgotten, but I remember. Every night, I can see her crying face. She is my daughter, a part of my life. You can easily let go, but I can't do that. The beautiful sister's eyes welled up with tears, yet not a single drop fell. Fang Jishu, you're just a coward. I have nothing to do with you anymore. I don't need you to manage what I do. I should leave, otherwise Miao Lun will become suspicious. The beautiful sister staggered to the door. Song Ke wanted to speak up to stop her, but was held back by Irene and Lin Yu, who signaled her with their eyes not to intervene. Just before opening the door, with her back to everyone, she said, "The guard unit will have significant movements soon. It's best for you not to get involved in anything." The apartment's door closed slowly, and shortly after, the tails roaming outside the street also disappeared without a trace. Inside the room, silence prevailed. Song Ke hesitantly began, "Fang Jishu." Fang Jishu stood motionless, slowly covering his face. Hot tears streamed from his fingertips. While neither of them had cried during their conversation, now, it was only Fang Jishu, his emotions collapsing into wordless sobs. Song Ke had never seen someone cry so heartbreakingly. Although no sound came out, every teardrop conveyed pain. Gradually, she felt a rising discomfort in her heart, a sensation that made her want to cry too. After a long while, Fang Jishu managed to slightly steady his breath. "I'm sorry, I've constantly burdened you with my tasks without ever explaining the reasons. I want to kill Nai Kong because I seek revenge, a deep-seated vendetta." You and Song Ke didn't know how to continue. Yao, her name is Zhang Wanyao, my wife, Fang Jishu forced a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Perhaps that shouldn't be called a smile. It was more like an expression of extreme pain. My former wife, different from Zhang Wanyao, Fang Jishu hadn't dreamt for a very long time. There was a time when he used to dream. In those distant and beautiful dreams, after returning from the 119 hospital, on a bright sunny afternoon, he would turn the doorknob. A graceful figure, wearing an apron, stood with her back to him, painting on a canvas. Fang Jishu's lips curved into a smile. He tiptoed closer, wrapped his arms around the woman from behind, rested his chin on her neck, took a deep breath, and felt all the weariness vanish in the warm embrace. Zhang Wanyao laboriously turned half of her body, holding up a paintbrush and a palette with nowhere to place them. With a smile in the corners of her eyes, she gently scolded, "Dr. Fang, how many times have I told you? Change your clothes first when you come in. It's hard to clean off the paint." Fang Jishu resisted, not willing to let go. He muttered, "I'll clean it, let me rest for a while, I'm so tired." Zhang Wanyao couldn't do anything about his stubbornness, so she nudged him with her elbow. "What about what we talked about last time?" Fang Jishu exaggeratedly grunted. "Take it easy, you want to murder your own husband? Don't worry, you focus on the art exhibition. I'll take care of Tian this week. I've almost cleared my surgeries, only one patient left." "Is it that case with New City?" Zhang Wanyao furrowed her brow lightly. "Yeah, that one. He's a high-ranking official. I, as a small doctor, can't decline," Fang Jishu said. "Stop it, it's because of the rare disease he has, and you can't resist the challenge." Zhang Wanyao immediately saw through him. Fang Jishu, a medical genius, lacked interest in ordinary cases but became eager when it came to complex surgeries. "He's just 13, after all, still a child." Fang Jishu coughed lightly, awkwardly changing the subject. After becoming a father himself, the sharp edges he once had softened considerably. "Where's Tian? Is she still in class?" "I'm here, Daddy," a sweet, delicate voice sounded, belonging to a pretty girl with neatly tied twin ponytails, around 8 or 9 years old, pouting unhappily. "I'm right here, but you only see Mom, not me." Fang Jishu lifted his daughter with one hand, playfully rubbing her nose. "Who says Daddy can't see you? Daddy's heart blooms at the sight of you." Tian chuckled, revealing 2 adorable dimples on each side of her cheeks, making her look particularly endearing. "Our great painter Zhang has to go to work. Tian is on break these days. Will you play with Daddy?" Fang Jishu asked his daughter. Tian hugged Fang Jishu's neck and gave him a kiss. "Okay, I love Dad the most." As the chief physician, Fang Jishu naturally had his own office and lounge. He was changing clothes for a doll with Tian when a colleague hastily knocked on the door and barged in. "Dr. Fang, the patient in VIP 3 is in critical condition." In VIP 3, the patient's name was Nai Wen, a 13-year-old boy, the only son of C55 District, New City's magistrate, Nai Kong. He suffered from a rare bone disease, McCune-Albright syndrome, MOS, a more complex form of osteodystrophy. The condition worsened with age, causing clearly defined brown patches all over the body, accompanied by severe bone pain during flare-ups. "Prepare for surgery. I'll be there immediately." Fang Jishu stood up. "Also, ask the head nurse to arrange for colleagues to take care of my daughter." He crouched down to talk to Tian. "Tian, Daddy needs to go save someone. Will you be a good girl and wait for me to come back?" Tian was a bit displeased, puffing her cheeks, but reluctantly agreed. She raised 2 soft fingers. "Okay, but I want to eat 2 strawberry-flavored ice creams." Fang Jishu indulgently smiled, kissed Tian's head, and gave her an extra scoop. "Daddy will get you 3, don't tell Mom." Nai Wen's surgery lasted a full 15 hours. Fang Jishu was fully focused, racing against death, and managed to pull Nai Wen, who was on the brink of death, back from the brink. Just as he exited the operating room, exhausted, he collapsed and fell asleep on the floor. Tian slept in the lounge for a while, and the next day, when Fang Jishu hadn't returned, she snuck out, holding her doll, taking advantage of the nurses dozing off. VIP 3, Tian faintly remembered this number. Dad must not have wanted to buy her ice cream, so he quietly hid here. Tian finally found the place and was about to enter when she was intercepted by a fierce-looking mercenary at the door. "Let her in," a weak voice sounded from inside the ward. Nervously, Tian went in. Not finding Fang Jishu, she was startled upon seeing the person inside. The young man lying in the hospital gown on the bed was thin, nearly the same height as her. His eyes were incredibly dark and his left face bore a large brown mark, similar to a birthmark, which looked particularly frightening. Tian clutched her doll tightly, terrified. She took small steps backward, trying to escape. Nai Wen stared fixedly at the little girl in front of him. He knew his illness was severe, having hovered near death countless times. He had been tormented to the point of being unable to bear it. His entire body was in excruciating pain. However, beneath that pain, there was another kind of hidden excitement silently spreading, as if telling him that all his suffering needed an outlet. When the roses bloom. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Why do doctors save people? Nai Wen forced a stiff smile and softly coaxed, "Come here, I'll give you candy." Tian was well educated. She didn't talk to strangers or accept things from them. She shook her head vigorously. "No, I want to go." She turned and dashed towards the ward's exit. "Stop her," Nai Wen commanded. The mercenaries, with their strong arms, pinned Tian to the ground. Her doll fell, and Tian cried out in fear. Nai Wen's voice was cold and light. "I'm in so much pain. Why am I the only one in such agony? Play with me, won't you?" Hearing the screams from inside, the mercenaries at the door seemed hesitant. "Is this going too far, even in the hospital?" Another person nearby said indifferently, "It's the same everywhere. If you don't want to die, I'd advise you not to meddle." Under Mu City's influence, Nai Wen could act without restraint. Mu City's hierarchical system was twisted, and even if he committed further wrongdoings, he could be suppressed. He had done this kind of thing many times before. After all, regardless of the ruckus, someone would always cover it up for him. When Fang Jishu woke up, he had a splitting headache. He propped himself up from the cold floor. The nap hadn't lasted long, less than an hour. But after nearly a day and night of standing at the operating table, even his robust body couldn't endure, so he succumbed to sleep for a short while. Rubbing his forehead, Fang Jishu walked to the rest area. Just before he entered, he remembered something. He turned towards the hospital's downstairs supermarket and bought 3 boxes of strawberry-flavored ice cream. He didn't want to be a father who broke a promise. As he returned to the rest area, several hospital leaders were standing at the door, each with a worse expression than the other. "What's wrong?" "Don't worry, the surgery was very successful. Everything will be fine." Fang Jishu smiled and attempted to open the door. "Jishu," the hospital director placed a hand on his shoulder, preventing him from entering. "Why?" Fang Jishu was puzzled, lifting the bag in his hand. "Let me in first. The ice cream is melting. Tian will get angry again soon, and that little girl is not easy to appease." "Jishu," the hospital director repeated, tears streaming down his face. Suddenly, Fang Jishu had a foreboding feeling. In the cold morgue, Fang Jishu saw Tian's body. A tattered doll was stuffed into her arms, her limbs broken, oddly reassembled, and her exposed skin filled with various bruises. Fang Jishu's world collapsed. "I will kill him." People around him hurriedly held him back. Fang Jishu, with bloodshot eyes, kept struggling, wrestling, and tearing, but was firmly restrained. The hospital director looked grave. "Jishu, Nai Kong from Mu City is here with the security forces. They have surrounded the entire hospital. There are troops stationed outside Tungwan. This incident has caused a diplomatic crisis, and the news of Tian's murder has been temporarily suppressed." Even if you rush out now, it won't help. It will only cost your life. The director knew the next words were too cruel for Fang Jishu, but he had to say them. The magistrate's intention is, you will still perform the surgeries, and he will personally oversee your work. Get off me, I will kill him, I will definitely kill him with my own hands. Fang Jishu was pinned to the ground, his head against the floor. His vision gradually blurred. I was wrong, Tien, Dad was wrong. Dad, why do doctors save people? Because that's our job. What if they are bad people? Do you save them too? Yes. Why? Because bad people are first humans, and then they're bad people. Doctors don't have the right to judge, but the law will punish the bad people. But would the law really punish bad people? At least, not in Mu City. Fang Jishu had raised a knife countless times, wanting to rush out and kill Nai Wen, but Nai Kang's men imprisoned him and forced him to operate on Nai Wen. Fang Jishu refused to comply and spent numerous sleepless, painful nights in the dark lounge. Then, the end of the world came. Fang Jishu was hit by a high fever. Having treated several individuals with special abilities, he knew secrets about awakening, and a glimmer of hope ignited within him. As long as I awaken this ability, as long as I can awaken, no matter what ability it is, I will definitely kill them. But reality dealt him a cruel blow. Fang Jishu did awaken an ability, but it was the most useless, a healing ability, capable only of saving lives. How ridiculous it seemed that when his heart was filled with hatred, fate demanded he continue to be a doctor, saving lives and aiding the dying. 3 days after the apocalypse, there was an internal shift in Mu City, and Nai Kong left Tungwen with Nai Wen. Fang Jishu regained his freedom and returned home, utterly lost. Upon opening the door, he found Zhang Wanyao, who had noticeably lost weight, waiting for him with a calm expression. "Ah Yao," Fang Jishu murmured, reaching out to embrace her, his head resting on her neck as tears streamed down his face. "Fang Jishu, you killed your own daughter." But this time, Zhang Wanyao pushed him away. Fang Jishu froze in place. The equally haggard Zhang Wanyao handed him divorce papers. "For these many days, what have you done? You couldn't even carry out your revenge. You're not worthy of being a father, or my husband. I can't face you anymore. I want to move to another city and start over." Fang Jishu was too exhausted. His mind was not functioning properly. He reached out to grab her. "That's not true, Ah Yao, I." Zhang Wanyao evaded his touch and walked swiftly towards the door. "You, Fang Jishu?" Her back trembled, her words cold and harsh. "No matter how much you suffer, you must live. Spend the rest of your life atoning for Tien. Fang Jishu stood stunned for a few seconds, then stumbled out after her, but Zhang Wanyao was already gone. He wandered the streets like a lost soul. His final memory was of several zombies leaping towards him. Let him be for now. Lin Yu closed the door, leaving Fang Jishu alone in the room, while the rest of the people remained silently in the living room. "Nai Kong, damn it," said Song Ke, enunciating each word. "Was Nai Wen, the murderer of Tien, deserving of death?" Yes, but it was not easy to kill Nai Wen. The challenge was the magistrate of Mu City, Nai Kong, the tyrant, who allowed his son's actions to go unpunished after the crime, utilizing military force to oppress and even demanding Fang Jishu continue surgery for the killer, showing no regard for him as a human. Song Ke finally understood why Fang Jishu and Zhang Wanyao often appeared absent-minded in her presence, because the similar pair dimples reminded them of Tien, that lovely little girl. Perhaps it was because of this that Zhang Wanyao took the initiative to help her. Irene touched the cannon in silence and said, "Of the 3 warlords, Miao Lun and the general have the closest relationship. I initially thought she wanted to get close to Miao Lun, but now it seems." Irene sighed silently and left the apartment. V587 resumed the meeting. "Now, what do we do?" asked Song Ke. "I think she's not lying to us." Regarding Zhang Wanyao's words before she left, Song Ke believed her intentions were sincere. This matter was undoubtedly important, as she reminded them twice. Based on her meaning, Mu Qin's recruitment of the guard unit might not be related to the general, but rather to the refugees from She. Zhuang Qingyan pondered for a moment and made a decision. Let's temporarily hold the original plan. Next, we will monitor Mu Qin's movements and try to visit She. I'll go, follow Mu Qin, said Song Ke. I'll go to She first, Su Cha said, taking the initiative to take on the other task. He was the most suitable person for it. She, District D88, Shamong, District D90, and Emerald City, District D101, were large D-level cities surrounding Mu City. With Su Cha's skills as an A-level awakener, combined with his proficiency in stealth and concealment, they were not worried when he went alone. When evening came, Song Ke returned on time. Everyone waited until the early hours of the morning, but Su Cha was nowhere to be found. Lin Yuyu's messages went unanswered, receiving no response. Su Cha never failed to reply to her messages before. Nothing bad would happen, right? Lin Yuyu expressed her concern. Should I go look for him? Song Ke stood up. Suddenly, there was a loud thud at the apartment door. The group turned their heads towards it, displaying alert expressions. Song Ke's palms slightly moved, conjuring a spiritual weapon dagger. With caution, they waited for a moment and then forcefully opened the door. Su Cha was covered in blood. Despite holding on to open the door, his gaze was hazy. He managed to say, She, there's. He couldn't complete his sentence. He collapsed in a pool of blood. Su Cha. Song Ke quickly examined him. Su Cha had multiple cuts and wounds, with a fatal piercing wound in his abdomen, seemingly from a sword. Chapter 93. When the Roses Bloom, 11, Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. She. Su Cha's face was as pale as paper, and his limbs were icy cold. Song Ke helped him, laid him flat, and checked his neck. His pulse was very weak. Lin Yuyu dropped the terminal and rushed over, kneeling on the ground. Her expensive silk skirt soaked in blood, but she paid no attention. She wiped the blood off Su Cha's face, repeatedly calling his name. Su Cha, wake up. Zhuang Qingyan patted Xu Xing's back. Quick, go get Fang Jishu. Xu Xing, the only one available, turned and hurried to the guest room. Rising on tiptoes, before he could knock, Fang Jishu had already heard the commotion from inside and came out. His eyes were faintly reddened, his mental state not too good, but he was already alert. Unlike before, he wasn't excessively indulging in sorrow. Observing the sudden situation at the door, Fang Jishu briskly walked over and stood beside Song Ke. I'll take over. Fang Jishu gently took Su Cha, covering the most severe penetrating wound with his palm. A luminous white aura flowed out of his palm. The immediate concern was to stop the bleeding. Otherwise, Su Cha might go into shock and die before further treatment. Prepare for surgery immediately. I need the following medications and tools. Fang Jishu, calm and composed, started listing the requirements clearly. Familiar with the process after Song Ke's previous incident, Lin Yuyu and others swiftly acted. On the makeshift operating table, Fang Jishu made precise incisions, preparing to cleanse Su Cha's wound. What surprised him was that although Su Cha's internal tissues were severely damaged, apart from the residual agitated spiritual power, there were no signs of infection. The wound wasn't caused by a physical object but by an ability, Fang Jishu whispered. The person who attacked Su Cha was quite decisive, striking in a single blow. The group felt a heavy sense of concern. Given Su Cha's cautious nature, whoever managed to injure him was undoubtedly powerful. The stitching process wasn't too difficult, and Fang Jishu swiftly finished. Removing his mask, he said, "Don't worry. Su Cha has a good physical foundation. His unconsciousness is due to excessive blood loss. Rest for a night, and he'll wake up tomorrow." Upon learning that Su Cha was not in critical condition, the group breathed a sigh of relief. Song Ke stood up abruptly and headed out. Zhuang Qingyan reacted swiftly, grabbing her wrist. Where are you going? To Shay. The situation is still unclear. Song K, dragging Zhuang Qingyan and the wheelchair, rushed forward stubbornly, like a determined calf, impossible to hold back. About to break free, Zhuang Qingyan exerted a little force, clasping her fingers tightly between his. Shay is more dangerous than we expected, you. Zhuang Qingyan was dragged forward another 2 meters. Tisk, the little girl is quite strong. I need to go back. Song K's eyes blazed with an intense fire, but in fact, this nameless anger had ignited long ago. It started with the knowledge of the story between Zhang Wanyao and Fang Jishu, and hearing about Tian Tian's encounters, and gradually intensifying with Su Cha's injury. The more it burned, the stronger it grew. Mu City, Nikong. This terrible, rotten place. These despicable people made Song K feel a rage she had never experienced before. She turned to face Zhuang Qingyan, not shaking off his hand but just looking at him, her stubborn eyes shining remarkably bright. Song K's life philosophy used to be simple. Whoever bullied her, she fought back. Likewise, anyone who bullied her companions, she'd definitely fight back. Zhuang Qingyan felt a pulse at his brow, instantly understanding he couldn't persuade her otherwise. He swiftly assessed the combat power of V-587 and finally made a decision. Then let's go, I'll go with you. Plus Lu Xiaoyu and Xu Xing. Lu Xiaoyu's mechanical arm nodded in place of him, rarely not objecting to Zhuang Qingyan's arrangement. You two stay behind to take care of Su Cha, Zhuang Qingyan instructed Lin Yuyu and Fang Jishu. 3 S-class awakeners, along with 1 B-class group attack specialist. With this lineup, even if Shay were a formidable opponent, they could take on the challenge. Get ready first, I'll talk to Fang Jishu for a moment, Zhuang Qingyan said. He scratched Song K's palm, calming her as if stroking a little cat's fur. All right, Song K, comforted, pulled Xu Xing's hand and left first. Once the door closed, Zhuang Qingyan turned to Fang Jishu, get me 2 doses of the sealant. The sealant injection was a therapeutic drug improved with abilities by Fang Jishu some time ago, containing a high-intensity mixture of radiation and anesthetic substances. It had a compulsory effect to suppress pain and promote nerve activity, enabling Zhuang Qingyan to stand up for a short time without relying on any external aid for his broken leg. However, this stimulating therapy had significant side effects. If administered improperly, it could cause irreversible damage to bones and muscles. In compliance, Fang Jishu gave him 2 sealant doses, driven by his instincts as a doctor, and cautioned, this substance is still unstable. It's better not to use it. Even if you do, remember, a maximum of 1 dose within 10 days. Overdosing could have unforeseeable consequences. I understand, just in case. Zhuang Qingyan subtly stashed the 2 sealant injections in his hand. Keep in touch at all times. If there's any news from Su Cha, immediately sync it with us. All right, take care of yourselves, Lin Yuyu nodded. When Zhang Wanyao returned, there was a large group of private soldiers guarding Miao Lun's courtyard. Taking a glance, she intended to walk away but was intercepted by Hu Chao. The master wants you to wait inside. I'm very tired and would like to rest first, Zhang Wanyao said with a cold expression. The master said for you to wait inside. Hu Chao remained unmoved. Zhang Wanyao lifted her steps to walk inside. Within the house, occasional cries of women echoed, the bamboo windows reflecting several tall, blurry figures. These were the awakeners. Miao Lun was just an ordinary person, particularly treasuring his life, and never straying more than 5 meters from others, not even shying away when doing those sorts of things. Intense nausea surged up in waves from her stomach. Zhang Wanyao suppressed the urge to vomit and stood expressionless in the courtyard, waiting. Different from newcomers like Mu Qin and Ruan Wenjun who rose to prominence through their own abilities in recent generations, Miao Lun's family had been military warlords in Mu City for generations. Their local power was deeply rooted, existing for a longer time than even the reign of generals. Many clandestine matters inconvenient for generals were completed through Miao Lun's hands. Hence, his personal relationship with the general was the closest among all the warlords. Miao Lun could secure a position among the top 3 warlords despite being an ordinary person, which revealed his deep cunning and ruthless methods. Although Mu Qin and Ruan Wenjun had gathered a large number of private soldiers, in terms of local influence, Miao Lun was second only to the general. Nearly half an hour passed before the commotion inside gradually subsided. The door opened, and a blood-stained young girl was dragged out. Zhang Wanyao wore only a simple skirt, feeling chilled to the bone, her lips frozen. As the girl passed by her, she suddenly moved, her bleeding nails accidentally catching Zhang Wanyao's skirt. "Mumsao," the girl seemed delirious, uttering these words before being heartlessly pulled away. In the Mu City language, Mumsao meant little sister. Zhang Wanyao hadn't seen her before and assumed she was another one, acquired by Miao Lun. "Come in," Miao Lun's voice rang out from inside. Zhang Wanyao diverted her gaze and slowly moved inside. Miao Lun's collar was open, exhaling smoke leisurely, with Go Denwei standing behind, a compliant and agreeable look on his face. Come here." Zhang Wanyao sat at Miao Lun's feet, with Miao Lun pressing her shoulder with the palm of his hand holding a cigarette. He pushed her down until her forehead touched the cold floor, assuming a reverent posture of submission, the waistline bent, akin to a devout bow. "Do you know why I favor you?" Miao Lun asked. Zhang Wanyao remained silent, aware that Miao Lun wasn't actually seeking an answer. "It's because you are obedient, compliant, and intelligent. You know what to do and what not to do. I can give you some privileges to occasionally act willfully, but crossing the line won't be good." The scorching cigarette ash dropped down, leaving shallow burns on Zhang Wanyao's shoulder. "From now on, you shouldn't meet anyone from Western Street, okay?" Miao Lun's command made Zhang Wanyao's heart skip a beat. Miao Lun knew she had met with Irene, and perhaps he also knew about her assistance to Song Ke yesterday. Not good, the other people in that apartment. Zhang Wanyao panicked for a moment but quickly composed herself. Judging from Miao Lun's current reaction, he was merely warning her to stay away from people from Western Street. He probably didn't know their true identities. Someone as arrogant as him wouldn't bother about insignificant individuals. "Yes," Zhang Wanyao murmured softly. Miao Lun smiled, exhaled smoke, and contentedly admired the helpless rose at his feet. In the Western Street, Irene walked alone on the road. A notification sound, beep beep, chimed on her device, a video call from her teammates in Ferrara. Irene answered, greeted by several bright and cheerful faces on the other end. "Irene, we're watching the Rainbow Band's concert. Look, there are fireworks and even flower boats, so beautiful. Ferrara is really nice, I wish I could stay here forever." These girls, all taken out of Mu City by Irene over the past half year, were without exception, all awakeners. For ordinary people, especially women, leaving Mu City was as difficult as reaching the sky. "Irene, when are you coming back? We really miss you." Irene abruptly placed her device down with teary eyes, hastily wiping away tears with her incomplete right arm. "I'll definitely come back before the match," she answered with a smile a few seconds later. Just after ending the video call, she heard commotion ahead. Her eyes turned cold as she quickened her pace. "Marcia, you've been conscripted. Come with us immediately." Several private soldiers dragged a girl from a house. Marcia's parents followed but were ruthlessly knocked down. "No, let me go." "I'm not going." Marcia struggled desperately. Crack! A slap struck Marcia's face, causing her braids to scatter, and the arrogant private soldier showed no remorse. "Just a mere lowly commoner, being able to join Lord Miao Lun's Rose Army, you should feel honored," he sneered. "Don't waste words, just knock her out and take her away." Irene leapt onto the rooftop, positioned herself, switching her weapon to a Barrett M82A1 sniper rifle, slowly aiming at the heads of a few individuals. Marcia was still resisting, You've already taken my sister, I absolutely won't go with you. The private soldiers grew impatient and were about to act. Bang! A mild sound emitted from the silencer-equipped barrel. A flash occurred as bullets infused with awakened energy precisely struck the bodies of the private soldiers, tearing them apart instantly. Hot blood splattered all over Marcia, leaving her stunned. Irene leapt down from the rooftop and approached her with light footsteps. It was only when she emerged partially from the shadows that Marcia exclaimed in a daze, "Irene." Most people in the Western Street knew this sly fox. Marcia rushed into her arms and wept, "Sister, they took her away." "Irene, can you take me with you too?" Irene patted Marcia's head, "I've killed their men. It won't be long before they find out. It's not safe for you to be with me." Marcia looked despairing. "Then what should I do?" "I absolutely won't go with them." Irene pondered. "You should go to Shamong and find Samuel. It might be tough facing zombies every day, but at least no one will force you to do things you don't want to do." "Are you willing?" "Yeah." Marcia nodded through her tears. Excuse me." A hesitant voice came from the street corner. Irene immediately raised her gun, aiming at the newcomer. A man in his early 20s jumped out from the alley, raising his hands sincerely. His face looked somewhat familiar, seemingly also from the Western Street. "You're the sly fox, right? I've heard so much about you. I'm Kansu. I joined the freelance mercenaries 2 months ago. I really admire you." Irene's expression turned stern, but she eased the pressure on the sniper rifle. "Just a moment." Kansu realized he was talking too much and began sweating profusely. "I mean no harm. I just returned to the city and overheard your conversation. Wanted to give you a heads up." "A heads up about what?" Irene asked coldly. Kansu scratched his head. "You probably can't go to Samuel anymore. I just came from there, and this morning he officially declared his alliance with Shay." Chapter 94. When the Roses Bloom, 12. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Another S-level, District D88, Shay. Before the apocalypse, it was a somewhat famous heavy industrial city, serving as a satellite city of District C55, New City, alongside Shamong, a city developing the marine industry, and Emerald City, which mined rare ores. It played a role in diverting the population and supplying a considerable amount of resources to New City. Due to the excessive development of industries like steel, petroleum, and chemicals, Shay suffered severe environmental pollution. The sky was constantly hazy, and the streets and buildings were enveloped in darkness, resulting in very low visibility. Song K and the other three quickly moved forward, occasionally encountering zombies along the way, swiftly dispatching them with their blades. By this time, it was approaching the early hours of the morning. As they moved closer from the outskirts of Shay, traces of gunfire and residual smoke could be seen along the way. Various houses destroyed by supernatural powers, roads and bridges blown apart, piles of zombies and human bodies formed small mountains, creating a gruesome and heart-wrenching sight. As they approached the city center of Shay, the situation slightly improved. The areas destroyed were significantly reduced. Song K's ears twitched slightly as she faintly caught sounds of people from an abandoned steel plant. She gestured to her companions, and Zhuang Qingyan and the others immediately understood, proceeding cautiously. They initially thought they had encountered fleeing refugees, but the situation was vastly different from what they had anticipated. Approximately 20 or so supernatural individuals gathered together, mainly judged to be C-level and D-level based on their supernatural abilities. They were organized, with a rational division of labor, actively hunting down a group of zombie-like creatures following a coordinated command. Various supernatural abilities shimmered one after another, and with everyone's concerted efforts, the monstrous group was efficiently eliminated. A few ordinary individuals emerged from the group's rear, skillfully clearing the battlefield and collecting the fallen crystals. They're organized and disciplined, not ordinary refugees, Zhuang Qingyan analyzed calmly. After clearing the area, the group of refugees began to head back. "Let's follow them," Zhuang Qingyan said softly, adjusting the wheelchair to a quieter mode. Lu Xiaoyu's mechanical arm extended, lifting off the ground and transitioning into a walking mode. Song Ke and Xu Xing held their breath, cautiously trailing behind. After about half an hour of tracking the refugees, the four of them arrived at a camp. Calling it a camp might not be entirely accurate. While Samuel's type of establishment might occupy a few large buildings and could be called a camp, the scale of this steel forest before them had reached the standards of a stronghold or base. At the top of the outpost in front of the base, 2 rows of massive, glaring searchlights rotated, leaving no room for any intruders. With their stealthy agility, even a spy like Su Cha would be injured here. Song Ke became even more cautious, not daring to take anything lightly. She tightly gripped the spiritual short sword in her palm and took a few slow steps forward. Suddenly, a strong sense of impending danger descended, causing Song Ke's entire body to bristle with alarm. Even though she hadn't touched anything around her, it felt as if she had stepped into an invisible restricted area. The flowing psychic energy swept over them like a tidal wave, grazing above their heads. The 2 rows of searchlights clicked accurately towards them, freezing their position in the spotlight. This was bad. It was a detection-type ability. Almost simultaneously, a piercing alarm rang out, and over a dozen awakeners leapt down from the outpost, swiftly rushing towards them. Zhuang Qingyan immediately issued a command. Xu Xing, take 5 steps back, and release ice at the 10 o'clock position. Xu Xing hurriedly ran backward on his short legs, releasing ice shards as directed, slowing down the opponent's initial assault. Lu Xiaoyu's 6 arms moved in unison, launching a rapid attack with a code wall of 100-1010, seizing the opportunity to block the opponent's retreat and attempt to capture them. Seeing that they could manage, Song Ke cautiously charged into the enemy formation. Her short sword danced in her hand as she engaged with 4 or 5 people in front of her. These awakeners were formidable, and their attacks were ruthless. However, when confronted head-on with Song Ke's aggressive assault, they found themselves at a disadvantage. She wielded her sword, forcing one of the awakeners to retreat, exerting a dominant awakened energy to suppress them. The opponent hesitated, showing a clear vulnerability, which Song Ke exploited, swiftly toppling them with a kick. A gust of wind blades came from behind. Song Ke dodged to the side, but just as she avoided it, the ground beneath her began to tremble violently, cracking on both sides. She had to reach out to steady herself. Simultaneously, 3 other awakeners leapt into the air, hurling numerous dark-colored energy clusters towards her face. Song Ke's eyes narrowed. Her spiritual short sword transformed for a second time, extending into a 3-foot-long sword, emitting a surging sword aura as she swung it backward. Beep beep. Xu Xing's terminal suddenly lit up. The little guy glanced at it, widened his eyes, and quickly handed it to Zhuang Qingyan. Zhuang Qingyan lowered his gaze. The voice message from Lin Yuyu was extremely urgent. Where are you? Su Cha's awake. He said there's an S-level awakener in Shay. Be careful. Song Ke's sword aura shattered not only the dark energy clusters but also ended the attack from the 3 awakeners. As they scrambled to fall from midair, she seized the opportunity to counterattack, aiming to strike the enemy's throat when a sudden change occurred. Thousands of golden runes descended from the sky, encircling Song Ke. In the thick mist, a deep and ethereal chanting began to echo. Heaven and earth's mystical ancestry, the origin of all energy, honed through countless eons, proving my divine abilities. In the blink of an eye, the runes vanished, transforming into innumerable golden sword lights, carrying the might of thunder and storm, all directed at Song Ke to strike her down. Multitudes of gods, pay homage, wield the thunder, instill fear in the evil and banish the supernatural beings. This was the Golden Light Divine Curse. These runes were driven by supernatural abilities. Song Ke's mind and spirit shook entirely. The power of the supernatural runes was immense and could obliterate anything it struck. Being hit by them was no laughing matter. The ground continued to tremble under her feet, and the surrounding awakeners were watching her closely. Caught in a pincer attack, Song K had no choice but to evasively dodge the omnipresent golden light. She rolled and tumbled into a pile of debris, finding abandoned steel bars. In an instant, she conjured a huge shield to block all those swords. Due to the impact, Song K was pushed back for several meters within the debris before managing to halt her steps. Amidst the dust and debris, a tall man wearing a black Taoist robe, his face obscured within the hood, strolled leisurely. Chang-Chi. The awakeners surrounding Song K shouted his name. These people trespassed the restricted zone and attacked first. Ruan Wenjun sure has many dogs, they all come sniffing after the scent. The dust filled her lungs, leaving Song K coughing uncontrollably, her face covered in ash and dirt. The man in the hood remained silent for a moment, then suddenly formed hand seals. His middle and ring fingers touched, index, little finger, and thumb extended and aligned, then split upper and lower. He raised the golden seal to his forehead, and behind him, the thunderous roar of the void once again flashed with lightning. The second round of rune attack was about to descend. No, I can't let him unleash it. Certainly, Song K wouldn't just sit and wait for doom. She thrust her long sword forward, decisively interrupting his hand seals. Unexpectedly, the man was adept at close combat as well. For dozens of rounds, Song K sparred with him. Despite his techniques seemingly inferior, he remained composed, patiently seeking opportunities for a counterattack. In the midst of their engagement, Song K felt a strange familiarity, as if she had fought against this person countless times. Harnessing her core strength, she abruptly altered her fighting style, launching a swift upward thrust. The man couldn't evade in time, and the fierce sword wind tore through half of his hood, briefly revealing the side of his face. Black hair, black eyes, sharp eyebrows, a distinctive jawline, lips tightly pursed, making him seem unapproachable. Song K's mind went blank for a moment. You, our senior brother? He abruptly stopped, staring at her in silence and vigilance. Song K belatedly realized and hastily used her sleeve to vigorously wipe her face. Just a moment ago, she had fallen into the debris and was utterly filthy. After removing the dirt and grime from her face, she lifted her head, revealing her clean, fair face. You are Song K? The man stopped drawing symbols mid-air behind his back and slowly called out her name. Song K took a step forward, akin to a nimble swallow, pleasantly calling out again, Senior brother. John C. responded, taking off his hood and looking down at her. It's me, everyone, cease your actions. He then turned and issued the command, prompting the awakeners to immediately stop. It seems Song K knows this S-level. We don't need to fight, remarked Lu Xiaoyu, retracting his 6 mechanical arms and calmly returning to his wheelchair. Zhuang Qingyan lightly tapped the wheelchair with his fingertips and discreetly glanced over. After Zhang Si said something, Song K began vigorously brushing off the dirt from her body, accidentally choking herself, leading to severe coughing. Zhang Si reached out to help brush her off. Zhuang Qingyan's movement halted abruptly, his dangerous almond-shaped eyes narrowing. Zhang Si sensed something keenly, abruptly raising his head to look in the distance, where a man in a wheelchair was staring back. Your person? Zhang Si asked. Huh? Yes, he's mine, a companion, Song K replied, turning her head to happily wave Zhuang Qingyan and the others over. Zhang Si's gaze returned to her. Why are you here? Song K recalled the incident with Su Cha, about to speak, when another group jumped down from the watchtower, emanating a chaotic psychic disturbance. Astonishingly, they were all A or B level awakeners. The leader among them yelled arrogantly, Where's Ruan? Hurry up and die. As they approached, these individuals abruptly hit the brakes, their faces shocked as they looked towards Zhang Si and Song K. Oh my, I'm not dreaming, am I? Is this an illusion? You, junior sister, Mo Yan, who was shouting earlier, leapt in front of Song K, excitedly pinching her face, only to receive a disdainful punch from Song K. All these people were the elites taken from Yu Mountain Martial Arts School by Zhang Si at the time, originally headed to participate in the Azure Phoenix assessment. After the apocalypse, they lost contact and unexpectedly encountered each other today. Song K, with a serious expression, brought up the matter at hand. Senior brother, why did you injure Su Cha? Who is Su Cha? Zhang Si asked in response. Su Cha is my companion, skilled in concealment. He returned from Shay yesterday, heavily injured. Song K gestured to the wound on her abdomen. Several of the first awakeners who had jumped down spoke up. Chong Chi, is she talking about the person who appeared simultaneously with Ruan's spy? That guy's quite a fighter. We couldn't stop him. It was you who personally intercepted him, another said. Song K was taken aback. These people referred to Zhang Si as Chong Chi. Could it be that Zhang Si, her senior brother, was the same Chong Chi, the leader of the refugees in Shay, the one who had the 3 warlords and generals in a bind? Zhang Si quickly remembered the awakener he fought against yesterday. I'm sorry. It seems it was a mistake. The situation was chaotic at the time, and he almost infiltrated the base. I thought he was sent by Ruan Wenjun. Realizing his attack might not have been light, even if the other party managed to survive, the situation might not be optimistic. Zhang Si continued, there's a B-level healer in the base. Bring him over. No need. Su Cha is currently unable to move, came the cold voice of Zhuang Qingyan from behind the two. Zhang Si and Song K turned to look, finding Zhuang Qingyan reclining lazily in the wheelchair, his eyes filled with a smiling glint. Chong Chi, right? Can I make a suggestion? Since we can't exactly call each other enemies, there's no need for this many people to surround us. Let's discuss matters in a more appropriate setting. Who are you? Zhang Si maintained his expression. Me? Just an ordinary researcher, Zhuang Qingyan replied with a smile. Song K shot him a wordless glance, wondering why this person was being theatrical again. Zhang Si glanced at Song K, recalling her mention of a companion, and nodded slightly. Let's discuss inside the base. After tidying up the area a bit, the group made their way towards the gate of the base. Mo Yan affectionately draped his arm over Song K's shoulder. Since he couldn't pinch her face, he settled for ruffling her hair. Little junior sister, you traveled 1,000 miles just to chase your husband here? Determined to become Zhang Si's bride? He teased. Song K's smile instantly dropped. No, that's not it. Mo Yan winked at her. I understand, shy are we? Look at Zhang Si, so thick-skinned, never refuting. Zhang Si glanced at Mo Yan, unable to comprehend why these people could keep the same joke going for over a decade. Behind the group, Zhuang Qingyan's wheelchair stopped abruptly without warning. What's wrong? Lu Xiaoyu asked. Nothing. Lu Xiaoyu glanced at Song K, who was getting her head ruffled in the crowd, and Zhang Si, who had an upright back, then turned to look at Zhuang Qingyan. The face that usually bore a false smile was now devoid of expression, faintly exuding a hint of the arrogance and rudeness of youth. As Lu Xiaoyu observed, a light bulb flickered in his emotionally detached brain. Ha! He let out a cold laugh. Chapter 95. When the Roses Bloom, 13, Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Hurry and bring my sister back. The exterior of the Shay base resembled a crouched fierce beast, constructed from reinforced concrete at the base. The active areas primarily concentrated about 30 meters above the ground, seemingly impregnable, like a fortress designed for both battle and defense. Passing several swaying iron suspension bridges, Song K arrived at the giant maw opened by the beast, the main entrance to the base. The steel gates slowly opened, revealing the full view of the Shay base before her eyes. Unexpectedly, it was bustling inside, vibrant and full of life, permeated with the atmosphere of everyday living. Children ran and played on the main streets, young women occasionally glanced around, mostly bowing their heads to focus on sewing and repairing. Under the eaves of adjacent buildings, red chili peppers hung alongside fragrant smoked meats. Various levels of empowered individuals moved through the streets, gathering in groups, preparing to go out hunting. Seeing John C. and the others returning, people greeted them warmly. "It's Uncle Chong-Chi. Uncle Chong-Chi is so amazing." The children excitedly gathered around. "You're back. Nothing happened outside, right?" a passing awakener casually asked. "Oshong has prepared breakfast for everyone. Hurry and eat. Don't let your stomachs go hungry," an elderly lady cautioned worriedly. Although John C. was not one to smile or speak much, people in the base, upon seeing him, respectfully nodded to him, exuding a sense of closeness from within. The atmosphere here was completely different from that of new cities. Senior brothers and senior sisters mingled with others comfortably, chatting and laughing, faintly reminding Song K of her time in the martial arts school. This had been the case since the past. John C. possessed a unique demeanor, and whatever he said or did always seemed to gain people's trust. Coupled with his mature demeanor and steady actions, despite his young age, he was universally acknowledged as the big senior brother. Several tall observation towers stood atop the base. One of them was half collapsed, charred by artillery fire, and a huge crane lay fallen on the ground, creating a deep crater. Following Song K's gaze, John C. explained, "These past few days, I've been clashing with Ruan Wenjun, causing mutual injuries." Another senior brother, Fan Yiwen, in his 30s, sneered, "Just thinking about it brings bad luck. Recently, Ruan has gone mad, biting at us like a crazed dog. The fighting seems endless. Ruan Wenjun has been relentlessly attacking Shay these past 2 days." Song K paused in her steps, recalling the reddish-blue crystal from the hero banquet. Suddenly feeling a pang of guilt, she honestly confessed the whole story to them, suspecting that Ruan Wenjun might have put the blame on Shay for the trouble caused by the stolen level 3 zombie crystal. Upon hearing her explanation, everyone fell into a moment of speechlessness. "Well, little junior sister, shall we take the blame for you?" someone joked. "Who taught you these mischiefs? Return my innocent little junior sister." Mo Yan covered his mouth, pretending to be deeply distressed. "Junior sister, your actions have brought disaster upon us, causing the loss of an observation tower." "Hey, John C., aren't you going to intervene?" John C. remained unbiased and made a fair judgment. "If I remember correctly, it was you who deviated the tower with your abilities. If you want me to intervene, then you'll be responsible for repairing it." "Biased? How can our big senior brother be so biased?" Mo Yan was hopping mad. "Ha ha, Mo Yan, are you daft? You want John C. to arbitrate for you?" a senior sister teased. Knowing each other for over a decade, Song K knew they were all just joking, without any ill intentions, joining in their laughter. The front was lively and bustling, while the rear was quiet and empty. Shu Xing ruffled his own curly hair into a mess, muttering discontentedly, "Sister was taken away." Growing increasingly agitated, he clenched his fists and shouted at the man in the wheelchair, "Hey, she's been taken away by someone. Aren't you the most capable? Hurry and bring my sister back. Did you hear that? Bring her back," mocked Lu Xiaoyu, playfully mimicking pulling actions with the 2 mechanical arms behind his back. Zhuang Qingyan, just shut up. It was breakfast time, and Zhang Si led them to the cafeteria. As they were among their own, there weren't many formalities. Just like in the martial arts school days, everyone casually grabbed their breakfast and found a place to sit, engaging in casual conversation. "Senior brother, how did you become Chong-Chi?" Song K finally found an opportunity to ask. "It's a long story," Zhang Si slowly began to explain. After leaving the Yu Mountain Martial Arts School, Zhang Si and his group hurried to District B to participate in Azure Phoenix's assessment. Along the way, one after another, team members fell ill with a fever, forcing them to stop and recuperate. Once everyone had passed through the fever and awakened to their miraculous abilities, the existence of awakeners was no longer a secret. The impending doomsday arrived inevitably, with zombies and ferocious beasts everywhere, city transportation paralyzed, societal order collapsing, and every step forward becoming exceptionally difficult. As the team captain, John C. had to contemplate future plans. Should they continue northwards to the base and follow the original plan to take the Azure Phoenix assessment, or should they turn back and slowly build their strength at U Mountain? Quickly, he made a decision. They wouldn't proceed forward. John C. had a premonition that the world had changed. The current alliance was undergoing significant upheaval, and joining Azure Phoenix no longer held any significance. Since they had already awakened their abilities, they should take control of their own destiny. After returning to U Mountain, we found 23 graves. We didn't know what had happened, so we had to open each one to investigate. John C. recalled the feelings of that time. Dark clouds loomed overhead, everyone's expressions were somber and heavy. Witnessing all the martial arts school students turning into zombies was a hard reality for everyone to swallow. Master, Song N, and the others. Song K choked up. Finally, the day arrived when she told John C. about what happened at the academy, including having to kill her fellow students. You didn't do anything wrong, John C. assured her. If he was still around, he wouldn't blame you. Although it had always been rumored within the school that John C. was Zhang Ting's biological son, their relationship was not particularly good. John C. had always been a role model for all the students. Master had particularly high expectations of him. If anyone made a mistake, he would be the one punished. John C., in essence, received the most punishment. John C. spoke in a grave tone. When you arrived at the school, he had already passed away, right? Yes, there was a hole in his chest. Song K described the scene vividly based on her memory. John C. fell silent, deep in thought. Senior brother, what happened afterward? Song K couldn't help but ask. Afterward, after leaving U Mountain for the second time, they continued wandering, passing by numerous shelters and camps established by awakeners but never settling in one. It was during their journey through Shay that John C. rescued a group of refugees who had escaped from Mu City. Due to his formidable strength and growing reputation, more and more people gradually pledged their allegiance to him. From leading dozens of individuals, he expanded to hundreds, then thousands, and now as the leader of over tens of thousands of refugees. In this post-apocalyptic world where strength reigns supreme, John C.'s reputation with his awakened S-level runic abilities spread far and wide. He remained undefeated. Under his leadership, the Shay base grew increasingly powerful, to the extent that it began to challenge the foundation of Mu City, causing the despotic ruler Nai Kong and the three warlords to take notice. Meanwhile, John C. himself had become the dreaded Chong Chi. Having finished recounting their group's experiences, John C. lowered his head and looked at Song K. And what about you? How did you end up here? Well, Song K hesitated, rarely finding herself in such a dilemma. V-587's sole purpose in coming to Mu City was to assassinate the magistrate, Nai Kong. But this matter was too extraordinary. Her senior brothers and sisters were dealing with Ruan Wenjun's pursuit, protecting the Shay base and the refugees. Their situation was already dire. Did she really need to burden them with this additional worry? Song K struggled to make a decision. Subconsciously, she turned her head, seeking out Zhuang Qingyan's position, and used her eyes to ask for help. Should she reveal her purpose? Zhuang Qingyan ignored her, completely unmoved. Song K thought that Zhuang Qingyan didn't understand her at first. She widened her eyes as she began using her fingers to gesture. Zhuang Qingyan sighed in his heart. This heartless little thing who couldn't tell the difference between east and west after a few words of coaxing from others. At least she finally thought to ask for his opinion. He nodded slightly. With his response, Song K turned back and honestly said, "Senior brother, I want to kill Nai Kong." The others were utterly shocked. "Oh my, little junior sister, you're even more audacious than John C. Your ambition is way too big, isn't it? Are you planning to become a magistrate on your own? Talk aside, don't take it seriously. If the magistrate of District C dies, there will definitely be big trouble." John C. didn't immediately speak up. His gaze shifted from the small actions of the two individuals and he furrowed his brows. While the senior brothers and sisters were in the midst of advising and persuading Song Ke, Zhang Si subtly nodded towards Fan Yiwen. Fan Yiwen immediately stood up. Hey, little junior sister, Rita doesn't know you're here yet. She's leading a team on patrol outside. Let's go, I'll take you to find her. Rita, her senior sister, is also in Shay? Song Ke's eyes sparkled. Okay. As Song Ke followed Fan Yiwen out, there was a sudden shift in the atmosphere within the cafeteria. The senior brothers and sisters, who were just laughing moments ago, almost instantly altered their expressions. Each one turned around, some clenched their fists, some folded their arms, quietly encircling the trio of Zhuang Qingyan. Seated in the center, Zhang Si adjusted his robe's sleeve cuffs and abruptly spoke, "May I ask your name?" Zhuang Qingyan calmly smiled. "I'm Zhuang Qingyan. Where are you from?" Zhang Si continued to inquire. "I'm not really from anywhere, I come from the Qinglin Research Institute," replied Zhuang Qingyan calmly. "No records of origin? That would mean he's a refugee, right?" Zhang Si's brow furrowed even more. "Although Song Ke mentioned that you were her companions, there are some things I'd like to confirm." "If there is any offense, please forgive me," Zhang Si said. "What do you mean?" Zhuang Qingyan raised an eyebrow. "Just what you're thinking. Song Ke doesn't have any family now. We have a responsibility to take care of her. We cannot let her be used to do risky things for dubious individuals." Zhang Si made a hand gesture, and a serene-faced woman emerged from behind him, Bai Ruotong, an A-level awakener with the ability to detect lies in the mind. "What, are you going to interrogate me?" Zhuang Qingyan smirked. "Not an interrogation, just a simple inquiry," Zhang Si said. Zhuang Qingyan remained composed, leisurely leaning back in his wheelchair. Despite his physical condition, he still exuded an air of calm and elegance, smiling as if the moon had nestled in his embrace. "All right, then come at me," he replied.